Well, the San Diego Gulls special teams are buzzing, and they've had a pretty decent week. We'll talk about all of that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah. Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade. Also, the public address announcer for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. It's been a fun one, folks. And if you're a Gulls fan, it's been very fun recently. Got to remind you, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase on the Gametime app. Once again, as I mentioned, I'm Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering the Gulls and minor league hockey for over a decade, and I've also contributed to Defend the Nest, among other things. So, yeah, check it out there. All right, we've got a little bit to get to, and I've actually got a very big takeaway on this one, and we'll get to that first. And my biggest takeaway from this last week, and really the last few games for the San Diego Gulls, has been the special teams. They have been buzzing. In fact, over the last 4 games, the San Diego Gulls have boasted one of the best special teams in really all of hockey. They had a streak going at one point of not 10, not 20, not 25, not 30, not 35. At one point, they had 37 consecutive penalty kills. I don't know what the record is. I don't think that record has been kept, but 37 consecutive penalty kills is a lot for the San Diego Gulls. And when I think about just the last about month, they're close to 1 for 50, I believe. I want to say 1 for 50 just to make sure, because they didn't allow one yesterday, and they only allowed the one. That's 37-46, so almost 50. It's actually one of their last 48, which is about a 2.5% on their penalty kill. They only allowed one power play goal over the last week, and that was at Calgary, but that was when San Diego was buzzing themselves. And I'll actually just mention this kind of neat stat. On Saturday's game at Calgary, San Diego beat them 7-4. Here's the special teams for that game. The Calgary Wranglers were 1 for 9 on the power play. 1 for 9. You think that's good? The San Diego Gulls in that game were a whopping 5 for 9 on the power play. I kid you not. 5 for 9. How often does a team get 5 power play goals in one game? I mean, for that matter, how many times do you see a team get 9 power plays and convert on 5 of them? That doesn't happen very often. And for a San Diego Gulls team that had been struggling on special teams for most of the first couple of months of the season, it's really good to see that coming around. And it's been a real hallmark for their team. And this is basically just a few guys. So I'm going to go with the power play first. Over the last 4 games, the power play for the San Diego Gulls stood at a whopping 9 for 24, which is 37.5% on the power play. Anytime you have that high of a percentage in that short of time, that's very good. I mean, one, you're getting that many power play chances because you're drawing a lot of penalties. By the way, Olen Zellweger, very good at drawing penalties. Chase DeLeo also pretty good at drawing penalties, but Olen Zellweger has been on another planet as far as drawing penalties, just kind of like Troy Terry of the Gulls. Troy Terry has been very good at drawing penalties, but Zells, I mean, I've said this time and time again, Zells is too good for this league. I've been saying that for the past couple weeks, but here, my biggest takeaway isn't Zellweger. I mean, he's part of it, but it is really about the special teams. And over the last 4 games, as I mentioned, 9 for 24 on the power play. Chase DeLeo has 5 power play points. That's not the best. Glenn Gaudin has 6 power play points, and so does Olin Zellweger. Out of the 9 for 24, Zells and Godden have the most power play points with 6 apiece. When you've got 6 points out of those 9 power plays, you're doing something not just good, you're doing something special. That unit for the San Diego Gulls has been out of this world on the power play. You know what I'm talking about. The unit of Olin Zellweger, Glenn Godden, Chase DeLeo, Andrew Agozzino. That whole line has been incredible. Oh, and Pavel Regenda. Regenda has been very good himself. He's gotten, I think, 3 points in there as well. But let's not discount Pavel Regenda either. In fact, let's put some respect on the Regenda agenda once again. I have vouched that Regenda should have had a better shot with the Anaheim Ducks, and he didn't. I think they did him a little bit dirty. I kind of get why, but he still deserved some kind of chance, at least a call-up with all the injuries the Ducks have had. He deserved one. Agozzino, he's been a steady veteran. He's been great. Chase DeLeo, who has played with Anaheim, I think he deserved a shot. Glenn Godden, he's been up and down. So Godden's been good. And Olin Zellweger has just been unbelievable quarterbacking that power play with ease. He has done an effective job of keeping the puck in the zone on several occasions. At least 3 of those power play goals, there was an opportunity for the opponent to chip the puck out, and there was Olin Zellweger to save the play and keep it in the zone. He is giving the Gulls extended power plays. And what I mean by that is not just 20 seconds, not just a one and done, and then the opposing team chips it out. No, we're talking 40, 50, 60 seconds at a time before the puck even leaves the zone, if it leaves the zone at all, which a bunch of times it didn't because they resulted in goals. So I got to give a lot of credit to Olin Zellweger here. And Glenn Godden, he's got some very great hands and a great finisher for this Gulls team. If you can keep this power play unit together, then opponents should, maybe stop taking penalties. But hey, you know what? The Gulls are getting a plethora of chances and they are converting on them. They've got that killer instinct back on the power play, something that has been missing. I mean, Zellweger was up with the Ducks, so that was missing. Chase DeLeo was hurt for most of the beginning of the season. Now he's back. Now I think everyone is at 100%. Keep these guys together. I mean, as much as I want to see Olin Zellweger with the Ducks, and I still think he should be with the Ducks, but I get why, because Minty's back. Keep Zells with the Gulls right now. They still have a shot at the playoffs, which I'll talk about on the third segment. But give this power play unit as much, as the kids say, let them cook. Let this power play unit cook. Oh, I didn't mention the penalty killing, by the way. Let's get into that. Almost won for their last 50. I think if they convert a couple more in their next game, then it will be a stretch of 1 out of 50 kills. That's amazing. That's a long, almost a month stretch. You don't even see that in the National Hockey League, where a team gets that many consecutive kills. So I've got to give a lot of credit to the killers. I mean, both units have been spectacular on the kill. So that's where I've got to give my major props to the killing in general. And we got to talk about Drew Hellison, by the way. Drew Hellison has been on the kill for a lot of those times. And we cannot discount the excellent play that Drew Hellison has had on the penalty kill. Also, something that the Gulls did not do in the beginning of the season, something that I was harping on them a lot the first 2 months. And I remember going a little bit nuts around November when they wouldn't get the puck out of the freaking zone. I know I did that more than a few times where I said, chip it out, get it out of the zone. No, get it out. And they didn't do that. Well, I think they finally took that to heart, and they're like, all right, we're actually going to make more of a concerted, I don't want to say more of a concerted effort, but it is more effective, the angles they are taking out of the zone. They're not just trying to chip it to the blue line. No, they're trying to chuck it all the way. They're actually trying to prevent any goals from happening. And also what I love is even though they're not chasing the puck for the forecheck, the Gulls are doing a great job of clogging up the neutral zone, but clogging up the neutral zone between the red line and the blue line just before their opponents enter the offensive zone. They're not letting the opposing teams even get into the zone, or even if they try to get into the zone, they will just try to dump and chase rather. And you know that doesn't always work. Dump and chase. That doesn't always work, especially if you're the Calgary Flames, because they don't have the entire roster that they used to have. As I wave goodbye to some folks, they just don't have it right now. I mean, Calgary especially, once they lost Matthew Phillips, that entire offense is a little bit, actually a lot different. So that is part of it. But also guys like Drew, even Glenn Gaudin, he's starting to see some PK time. He's starting to exclusively get more time on the special teams. So I think I'll give my final props to Glenn Gaudin being on both the power play, but also he's getting some penalty kill time. So as much as I love Zels, we got to give our stick taps. We got to, raise a toast if we can to Glenn Gaudin, who's been on both sides of it. So we salute you, Glenn. All right, I've been long-winded enough. So we're going to head into the first intermission, talk about the last 3 games. Stay locked in. And now, a brief word from Camino Consulting. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from becoming big ongoing fights. After providing more than 20 years of service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboarding new employees, Camino is offering a digital seminar for families and couples. Did your Valentine's gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you'd hoped? Well, it should have. I mean, come on, tickets for Valentine's Day? Who wouldn't want that? Get the couples and family online seminar for 25% off for the month of February using the discount code Locked On. Again, that is discount code Locked On for 25% off the rest of the month at www.caminoconsulting.ca, or mention Locked On when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles free at Camino Consulting. Welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Bam! Here, live at Acrisure Arena, where, by the way, I'll talk about this game that took place a little bit later, but it was a good game. Yeah, I will talk about that. Let's get into the last 3 games for the San Diego Gulls. And I know it says 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Well, I mean, that is kind of true. It was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Let's talk about the 2 steps forward, shall we? The San Diego Gulls had just come off of a big win against the Colorado Eagles, so they begin the post-All-Star break with a trip to Calgary. And this, folks, this was an amazing trip to Calgary. How good, you say? Well, Friday's game had some great highlights on it and a couple of highlight reel goals that I just am gushing about. It was Tomas Sukanik versus Oscar Dansk. And by the way, Calgary had to have an e-bug because Dustin Wolf had just gotten called up. So they're like, oh, crap. No Wolfie. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to start Dansk. Okay, what about a backup? The e-bug was Dustin Nickel, who's, I think, 34 years old. He's also the e-bug for the Calgary Flames. So it was Oscar Dansk, and he did not have a good time of it, folks. Let me just say, he looked a little bit shaky out there. That first goal the Gulls had with about 15 minutes left, Chase DeLeo just came right off the bench to score after like a really sloppy Gulls entry after they killed a penalty. Yes, another penalty kill. So it was like kind of sloppy after that. but Pavel Regenda was super hard at work to chip the puck loose towards the net mouth, and Chase DeLeo picked up the garbage and put it away to make it 1-0 San Diego. Then 6 minutes later, some really hard work on the forecheck. I love the forecheck throughout this entire game. That was one of the best working forechecks I've seen pretty much all season long. And they worked hard on that to keep the puck live and chip the puck away from Will Riddell. And then Chase DeLeo just kind of poked it away from, he poked it away and then got it to Glenn Gaudin behind the net. And then it was a quick pass to Judd Caulfield, who backhanded. It was a slow backhand, but he backhanded it past Oskar Dansk. And also with that assist, Chase DeLeo has the most assists in San Diego Gulls AHL history with 96, passing Sam Carrick. So congratulations to Chase DeLeo. Oh, but he wasn't done yet. He wasn't. Because in the second period, well, first off, before that, Glenn Gaudin, he just got annihilated in the face from a Ben Jones high stick. And the Gulls kind of had to mix around their power play unit because, he had to go off the ice. And it was a 4-minute minor. And then 6 seconds after that, this was a dumb penalty. Ilya Solovyov, he got caught hooking 6 seconds later. So all of a sudden, the San Diego Gulls are on a 5-on-3 for 1:54, a very extended power play. So after some time to kind of cool off, Glenn Gaudin is back. Not right away, but he came back eventually in that power play. And a minute and a half later, Glenn Gaudin, after getting drilled, by the way, he comes back and scores the power play goal from Chase DeLeo and Olen Zellweger. And he kind of gave a little bit of a look, too. Like, oh, you're going to get me in the face? Well, I'm going to score right on you. That's the way you get revenge, folks. Yeah, you hurt me, I score on you. That was the perfect revenge, the perfect karma. And Chase DeLeo had an immaculate cross-ice pass to score on the power play to make it 3-0. And then later in the third period, Josh Lapina intercepted an errant pass in the neutral zone and scored on a really sweet give and go. It was Lapina with the steal, pass to Nathan Gaucher, back to Josh Lapina to make it 4-0 San Diego. Meanwhile, let's talk about Thomas Suchanek. He was brilliant in this game. He made some key saves in the first period, especially when the Gulls were on the PK twice. He saved their butts. And some solid saves after the long 4-minute power play concluded. Overall, he was solid throughout the game, but he was really solid those first couple of periods when shots on goal were 29-16 in favor of Calgary, and yet it was 4-0. Fifth goal, that final goal, woo! Yes, it was garbage time. It was the third period. It was on the power play, but we got to give some respect to Olen Zellweger. After Glenn Gaudin, kind of retrieved the puck, Olen Zellweger kept it. Zell's had it behind his own net and just skated all 200 feet, passing a defenseman on the red line. Then past the blue line, another defender. And then he split the defense. He split the defense of Solovyov and Jonathan Aspero, and it was a sweet pass to a streaking Chase DeLeo to his left. Oh, my God. That was one of the best end-to-end assists that I've seen all season. Yes, if you go 200 feet, you kind of want to see him score, but because he had just split the D of Aspero and I just said it, Solovyov, Chase DeLeo was wide open, folks. Wide ass open. That made it 5-0 San Diego. That was your final score. Suchanek with the 38 save shutout. And he was given the first star, and rightfully so. 38 save shutout. Are you kidding me? Against this offense? Woo, boy. But credit to Chase DeLeo for the 4-point game. Glenn Gaudin, 3 points on the night. Yeah, well earned. Then the following night, and I realize I'm really running long on time, so I'll quickly go over that next game. It was all San Diego in the second, but the first period, it was all Calgary. Ilya Nikolaev, scored early on. Then Nikita Nesterenko scored on the Gulls' first power play. All right, so it's 1-1 on a double minor. And then because Sasha Pasajov got caught hooking, it was a 4-on-4. Jonathan Aspero scored, making it 2-1 Calgary. The shots on goal. In the first period, I kid you not. You ready for this? The shots in the first period were 25-5 in favor of Calgary. 25-5. And yet it was only 2-1 Calgary. How'd that happen? Well, it was Tomasz Jukanik again. Just coming off of the 38 save shutout. He was on his freaking game, by the way. Then second period, Calgary did outshoot them only 9-5, but it was all about the power play for the San Diego Gulls. Andrew Agazzino scored from Godden and Regenda. Then Judd Caulfield scored from Trevor Carrick and Glenn Godden, not on the power play. And then 2 minutes after that, Olin Zellweger on a nice goal, by the way, from Godden and DeLeo. All of a sudden, it is 4-2 San Diego. Then the third period, it was San Diego once again. I mean, they scored that many unanswered goals. Agazzino scored his 12th of the season on the power play. Chase DeLeo, his 10th on the power play. All of a sudden, can you believe it was 6-2 San Diego? Calgary did come back and score a couple, but Glenn Godden got an empty net goal. Your final score, 7-4. Shots on goal in this game. You ready for this? 49-18 in favor of Calgary. 49-18. If we were doing expected goals, and I had to go back and watch this, I would say the expected goals were something like 5-2 in favor of Calgary. Calgary should have won this game 5-2 and yet somehow lost 7-4. Dansk looked shaky. Sukanik looked brilliant in both games. He saw a total of 87 shots. 87 shots and stopped 83 of them. Sukanik well deserving of his kudos. The last game, I'll just say this was a San Jose special. They beat San Diego 6-2 on this one. It wasn't close. But hey, the Gulls did get a power play goal from Olin Zellweger again from Godden and Agazzino. That was the lone highlight, and that was a rifle of a shot from Zells as well from the point. After that, San Jose scored 5 unanswered goals. That was their first game of a back-to-back. So the Barracuda did win that game, but they didn't win tonight. And I will actually talk about that for a minute. I know it's locked on goals, but I'll just spend a minute talking about Firebirds, just for a minute. Don't worry. But we'll get to that after the second intermission. So we'll get to that on the other side. Now a brief word from Gametime. And folks, if you have not used the Gametime app, what are you waiting for? Because it makes your ticket buying experience so much easier. And you know what? You shouldn't have to worry about tickets to your next big event because the Gametime app has great last-minute deals at low prices. They also have flash deals and zone deals as well. Easy to find. You could get your tickets with just one touch, and that is it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So, San Jose, that was the first game of a back-to-back. But they came here to Acrisure Arena tonight on Gulls Thursday, and they got the crap kicked out of them, folks. Coachella Valley dominated the latter part of this game. Firebirds won 4-0 against the San Jose Barracuda, keeping the Barracuda in last place. Why is that important? Why am I mentioning this game on Gulls Thursday? Well, one, it was the back end of a back-to-back. Two, it was the only game of the night. San Jose got a little bit frustrated at the end of the game. They were just no match for the Firebirds. So that keeps the Barracuda at 40 points, still behind the San Diego Gulls. So here's a quick look at the standings as of Thursday night. The Firebirds are in first place with 62 points, followed by the Roadrunners at 59 points. The Calgary Wranglers, 55 points, so same with the Colorado Eagles. Fifth place, the Abbotsford Canucks, 51 points. Sixth place, Bakersfield Condors, 50 points. I want to bring this up. The Ontario Reign have 49 points. Henderson has 48 points. The San Diego Gulls have 43 points with 4 games in hand on Henderson and a game on hand with the Ontario Reign. So why am I bringing this up? They're only 6 points out of a playoff spot, that final playoff spot, where as of right now, they play the Tucson Roadrunners in that 2-7 playoff. San Diego still have a shot at the playoffs. I mean, I'm actually being real here. The San Diego Gulls at one point were, I think, 15 points behind that last playoff spot. But the Ontario Reign have taken a massive tumble in the standings. They have not won. They've lost their last 5 games. They're 2-7-1 in their last 10. Meanwhile, the San Diego Gulls, they're 6-3-1 in their last 10, including some very impressive wins against the Calgary Wranglers. So 6 points back with the game in hand. The team you've got to catch is the Ontario Reign. I mean, yes, they can catch the Henderson Silver Knights as well. Again, they have games in hand. But the Ontario Reign are the major free-falling team in the Pacific Division. And Ontario's completely, I hate to say it, but they've kind of lost their edge a little bit. As far as the Gulls are concerned, they've got 5 games left against the Midwest Division. So at least they have that going for them. But the next few games are going to be mightily important for the San Diego Gulls because one of those teams they are chasing, the Henderson Silver Knights, they play them on Saturday the 17th at Pechanga Arena. Then on Tuesday the 20th, they're on the road to take on the Bakersfield Condors. Both very important games, and they are right there in the standings. Henderson is 8th place, just above the San Diego Gulls. Bakersfield, I believe, is 6th. Yeah, they're 6th in the standings. Those are teams that Bakersfield is 2nd in the standings. My mistake. Bakersfield has looked really good, but my mistake. Wow. It is 6th. So I was right the first time. Bakersfield can be caught. Henderson can be caught. Ontario can be caught. That's the game after Bakersfield. They take on Ontario Saturday the 24th. But looking at the next 2 games, Henderson at home and then at Bakersfield. As long as the special teams can continue to cook like they have recently, and Henderson, for what it's worth, they've got a very good power play at 23.8%. They've also got one of the better penalty kills, 83.3% this season. So special teams is going to be difficult against Henderson. They're going to have to rely on that top line once again. And as far as Bakersfield is concerned, Bakersfield is still a very good team, and they've got some good goaltending. So if San Diego can get 3 or 4 goals on their goaltending, they have a legit shot. So that's what's coming up for the Gulls. Playoffs are still very much possible. And with that, we'll leave on that positive note. So we're going to wrap up here from Acrisure Arena. But once again, thanks everyone for listening and thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button now. You can follow me on the Twitter sphere or X at StimpyJD. The show's X is at LO_Ducks. You could drop me an email at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And as you may have noticed, we've been absent the last couple of days. Had some family stuff, had family in town. So just a whole lot going on as far as family stuff's concerned. But, just want to thank you all for the continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. And we'll be back with another episode on Friday. Once again, thank you all for the continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Goals, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the night. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks and Gulls fly together.